To everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
Rachel Zegler just got the coldest wake-up call from Disney, and let's just say, tears might be the least of what's coming. After months of backlash and damage control, Disney has officially moved on and crowned a new Snow White.
Snow White, the toe-curlingly terrible live-action remake, has bombed so hard at the box office that even Paul Tassi had to admit it.
Rachel Zegler was once hailed as the next Disney princess. After winning a Golden Globe for her breakout role as Maria in West Side Story, Hollywood saw her as the next big thing. But almost from the moment her casting was announced, the response was mixed. Some fans praised the diversity angle, calling it a step forward, but others questioned the choice, pointing out how far Rachel looked from the skin as white as snow description in the original story. Still, Disney stood by her, pushing the idea of a modern Snow White for a modern world. But Rachel's fairy tale quickly turned into a PR nightmare, and it wasn't the evil queen casting the spell, it was Rachel herself. It started during press interviews where Rachel dismissed the original 1937 Snow White as outdated and weird. She said the story was not made for today's audience and emphasized that Snow White wouldn't be waiting for a prince to save her. She even called Prince Charming a guy who literally stalks her, adding that we don't do that anymore. To Rachel, these statements were empowering. She was trying to reframe a classic tale in a feminist light. But to longtime Disney fans, it came off as disrespectful. They didn't see a thoughtful critique, they saw someone trashing a film they grew up with. And it didn't help that Rachel's tone in the interviews often sounded smug, almost like she was mocking the character she was hired to play. Even people who supported her casting started getting uncomfortable. Instead of promoting the film with love and nostalgia, Rachel seemed to be distancing herself from the very story she was leading. It raised eyebrows, especially considering Disney had been pouring hundreds of millions into the production. Fans started saying she was biting the hand that fed her. As soon as those interview clips hit TikTok, fans started calling her out for disrespecting Disney. Others called her ungrateful, saying that if she had a problem with the original story, she shouldn't have taken the role in the first place. It wasn't just conservatives or right-wing accounts pushing the backlash either. This was coming from everyday Disney fans, the people who collect the merchandise, book the theme park trips, and show up opening weekend. They weren't asking for a political lecture, they just wanted a magical story done right, and in Rachel's hands, it didn't feel magical anymore. Even Disney's core base started questioning the direction of the film. The attempt to modernize Snow White had turned into something way bigger than the studio expected. Instead of a quiet rollout, they had a culture war on their hands, and Rachel was at the center of it. And it wasn't just the fans turning on Rachel. Even Hollywood insiders and so-called friendly critics started pulling away. Media outlets that usually support Disney started airing doubts. Some pointed out the irony of Disney claiming to honor diversity while cutting 7 dwarfs from the film to avoid offending anyone, only to end up offending everyone.
If I'm gonna stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
Behind the scenes, sources say Disney executives were blindsided by the backlash. They expected some minor backlash, but nothing like the massive wave of criticism that hit them after Rachel's interviews went viral. What they thought was a modern twist on a fairy tale turned into a full-on branding crisis. Internally, the response was described as panic mode. Test screenings didn't help either. According to reports, audience reactions were lukewarm at best. The emotional connection just wasn't there. People felt confused about the film's tone. Was it trying to be a dark feminist retelling or a fun family fantasy? Even the visual effects were called out as lackluster in early cuts. And then came the trailers. Instead of excitement, the first look at Snow White was met with confusion. People questioned the costuming, the lack of dwarfs, and the tone of the story. The comment sections were filled with criticism, not anticipation. And to make matters worse, the merchandise wasn't moving. Toys and Snow White-themed products tied to Zegler's likeness sat untouched on shelves. Retailers were nervous. Disney had a problem, and it was growing by the day. That's when Disney made a desperate move. Without making any public statements, Disney quietly started pulling the plug. Rachel was suddenly missing from press appearances, scheduled interviews got canceled, her name and face were being erased from the film's marketing push. Multiple insiders revealed that Disney decided it wasn't worth the risk to keep putting Rachel front and center. Every time she spoke, it became a new headline, and not the good kind. Behind the scenes, they started limiting her exposure, even barring her from internal media days and promotional content planning. One source called it a soft blacklist. Rachel wasn't officially fired, but she was no longer part of Disney's future plans. This wasn't just about damage control, it was about stopping the bleeding. At that point, Disney realized the audience wasn't warming up to Rachel, and no PR campaign could change that. So instead of forcing it, they did the opposite. They went quiet, and that silence said everything. Fast forward to now, Disney has officially announced a new Snow White project. It's not a continuation, it's not a sequel, it's a reboot of the reboot, a clean slate with a brand new cast, creative team, and direction. In other words, Rachel Zegler's version has been shelved indefinitely.
What can you say? When you get people talking, it's a good thing.
This time around, Disney's taking a much different approach. They're focusing on the nostalgia factor, trying to win back the audience they lost. The studio wants to bring back the heart, charm, and magic that made the original 1937 film a classic. Gone is the radical reinvention, in comes the fairy tale just the way people remember it. If Rachel's version was a radical reinvention, this new one is a redemption story for Disney and the brand itself. Insiders say the new Snow White will go back to basics. We're talking traditional animation vibes, colorful costumes, musical numbers, and yes, an actual Prince Charming. The original storyline will be respected, not rewritten. And the Seven Dwarfs? They're coming back too, after backlash over Disney's earlier decision to cut them out. Basically everything Rachel's version tried to change. The new team is recovering. The messaging is clear. Disney heard the fans loud and clear, and they're responding by going back to the roots. It's a course correction meant to stop the bleeding and bring back the core audience they nearly lost. Since the reboot news dropped, Rachel Zegler has gone quiet. No press statements, no direct response, just a cryptic social media post where she wrote, "Some heartbreaks don't need fixing." That one sentence had fans split. Some read it as a sign she's moving on, others took it as a jab at Disney. But one thing's clear, there was no public acknowledgement of the backlash. But with how deep the backlash went, fans are asking the real question, did she burn the bridge beyond repair? And fans are wondering, did she burn the bridge so badly that there's no way back? Meanwhile, talk of who might replace her has been heating up. Industry insiders claim Disney is now hunting for someone with classic Hollywood charm. Think Audrey Hepburn vibes, not Gen Z influencer energy. They want grace, elegance, and timeless appeal. The complete opposite of the feminist angle Rachel was pushing. Some early fan favorites being tossed around include actresses like Lily Collins and even up-and-comers from Disney's own pipeline like Olivia Rodrigo. But nothing is official yet. What is clear is the direction. Disney wants someone who reminds audiences of the Snow White they grew up with, not a reimagined version that feels disconnected from the original spirit. But let's zoom out for a second, because this whole situation isn't just about Rachel Zegler. It's about a bigger issue Disney's been wrestling with for years: who they're actually making these movies for. Critics have been pointing out that the company has leaned heavily into DEI-focused messaging. And while those values matter, the way Disney has rolled them out hasn't always landed. Fans began to feel like they were being preached to instead of entertained. The Snow White controversy was just the latest spark in an already growing debate about what Disney's brand even means anymore.
Disney is going woke and going broke once again.
For a company built on universal appeal, it has become clear that they've started to alienate parts of their core audience: parents, families, and even longtime Disney loyalists. People aren't just mad about one film, they're frustrated with a pattern: beloved franchises getting reworked, characters changed for messaging instead of plot, and stories losing exposing their emotional core. And it's not just about public perception, there's been real financial fallout. According to leaked internal memos, Disney experienced major disagreements between its marketing, creative, and PR departments during the Zegler project. One report described it as creative whiplash. No one could agree on what the film was supposed to be. Messaging shifted week to week from a modern empowerment tale to suddenly a timeless retelling, leaving audiences confused and the team divided. Even Disney parks felt the impact. They struggled to move Snow White-themed merchandise connected to Zegler's likeness. Retail partners pushed back, fans weren't buying, and stores weren't restocking. What should have been a merchandising slam dunk turned into another reminder that the brand was out of sync with its base. And for a company like Disney, this kind of disconnect is a serious problem. There's a bit of cautious optimism right now. A lot of fans are just hoping Disney brings back the magic, the heart, the songs, the timeless feel that made these stories iconic in the first place. They don't need flashy reinventions or agenda-driven rewrites. They just want good storytelling. And if this reboot really is going back to the 1937 roots, there's still a chance to turn it around. At the same time, some fans feel the damage is already done. They've lost trust, they're tired of watching classic characters get repackaged in ways that don't feel authentic. For them, it's not just about Snow White, it's about what Disney stands for. But regardless of where fans land, one thing is clear: Rachel Zegler won't be part of this new chapter. She's not in the reboot, she's not in the promos, and she's no longer the face of Disney's future plans. Whether that was her choice or Disney's, that door seems closed. The question isn't whether Disney can make a great Snow White, it's whether they finally learned to listen. What do you guys think? Did Disney make the right move by dropping Rachel? And who would you cast as the new Snow White? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss the next update.